Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. And just recently they released the Shazam ally. Now I have covered that in a previous video, which I'll link in the description. But in that one I focused more on its support abilities in terms of how it could benefit healers or DPS, and kind of breaking that Emperor Aquaman Batman Laughs meta. Now they've slightly adjusted its damage. So let's take a look in this video if it's actually going to be worth it more to run as a DPS ally now instead of the support. So it's on the Cyborg vendor, 500 source marks. Just if you haven't aware of that new leveling process, we can kind of show it here with that new UI. So I've got Shazam here that I can level, and then basically just kind of spamming the level up. It's going to automatically take the catalyst that it requires. This is the one actual beneficial update of the UI. And now we've got it at 10. So let's take a look at the damage aspect here, because the support ability, the power Shazamily, and Purity of Heart, that has not changed. That's remained the exact same from that video, but the Bolt of Zeus, they have adjusted slightly. So let's take a look at that now. So this was something that I covered previously in my Shazam review, about the Bolt of Zeus. Kind of, if it killed an enemy, then it completely stopped and you didn't get the damage completion. They changed it just before it released on live server, that Bolt of Zeus, the combat ability, does not end basically when an ally is defeated. So this one, it essentially makes it now Electric's Arc Lightning. So well, not really the issue that we find is that I was kind of hoping they would kind of tweak the damage a bit more so that it wasn't so heavily skewed. So let's, for example, let me just pop out Superman. Superman is the de facto highest AoE ally, or was. So we can kind of see its damage. I'll show this in combat too, because obviously this isn't like the perfect scenario for Shazam. But you get about 700k. And now if we're switching this to Shazam now, Bolt of Zeus. So while we're waiting for the cooldown, I was kind of hoping Shazam would be used as the power Shazamily, where activating an ally's combat ability grants 6% might and 3% precision for 30 seconds. You know, I thought it would kind of replace the meta where you didn't always have to run Luck of the Draw and Seaside Restart. This is kind of being the meta since these allies came out. Just because of how powerful that combo is, especially in Eye of the Gemini meta. So, or if you're Might DPS, depending on your power set, sometimes you have to pop on Cyborg for the support ability. But I was kind of hoping Shazam would kind of replace the meta. I did so in my ally video. But now that they released him and we have Bolt of Zeus, you'll see in a moment here that it does replace the meta, that's for sure. It now makes it so that you cannot use Superman or any other ally, not even Cyborg in the best case scenario. You have to use Shazam for AoE damage. So it's about to come up here. We'll pop Shazam. Now there is a slightly delay in the damage, so if you're using EOD procs, it's still going to proc in time, but you just have to be mindful. So see here, Arc Lightning would arc towards the other targets. And we got 1.6 mil damage. So it's double the damage of Superman on AoE, and it's quick. It's all because of Arc Lightning. I mean, on single target, it's very poor, which you'll see in the damage results, which I'll put up here. Obviously, you're not going to use it on single target, just like you wouldn't use Arc Lightning on single target if you're electric DPS. You're going to use it on AoE. So now we just have a situation where, you know, it's mandatory to use Shazam for AoE. Because you can't give up twice the amount of damage. And I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, I think that's still heavily skewed and they need to adjust that damage. But even if they do, once again, it's hard because just like Arc Lightning, I mean, Arc Lightning doesn't split damage properly with Electric, and it hasn't for a long time because of how the ability works. Same thing with like Tesla Ball. So I don't necessarily mind it, because I always second guess myself recommending Superman for AoE damage, because unless you're a tank, his support abilities are useless. So if you're like a controller, healer, power, trying to level up Shazam or level up Superman, you can't use Inspiring Breakout, you can't use Kryptonian Channeling, so then you're basically leveling the ally just for the DPS ability, which, I mean, is a lot investment because obviously we can't fortify allies into anything else. So at least with Shazam replacing that meta, even if they change this damage in the future, Purity of Heart still works really well for healers. Power of Shazamily is a damage increase. I mean, it's not a huge damage increase, you saw in my testing, but it is still a damage increase, especially for content where you're not going to get multiple card procs out of Batman or Laughs. So in the end, it's still, Shazam is still a 100% level ally, even for the passives, but now especially for the damage. So let's I'm going to pop in the solo and kind of show you the AoE damage kind of in practice here. Because I mean, sparking targets, obviously nothing's going to die. It's a perfect scenario, but I'll show you how the same thing, like a Superman versus Shazam comparison in the solo. So let's jump into that now. So in this example here, you're going to see a couple things. One, another issue kind of in allies in combat is the difficulty where, you know, if they're not aimed properly or they decide the AI decides to do whatever it wants, it can miss damage. We'll see if we get a proper one here. We got Superman's freezing breath. Okay, it's probably going to hit everything, so that's good. So this is going to be more practical example here. We'll wait the 10 seconds. So we had about 700k damage in Superman there. 7 targets. So now let's show the same example here with Shazam. So to continue on there, with Shazam being essentially Arc Lightning, there's no risk of the AI kind of screwing up and missing damage because it's automatically going to arc between targets. So we'll wait for the 10-second parser. Now we'll pop Shazam. We've got the arc. It didn't stop once the targets were defeated. And then we've got over 1 million damage. So even in combat, you know, completely trumps Superman, double the damage of Superman. It's basically a completely, you know, an ability that you just pop and forget because it's essentially arcing damage. Now, even if they did adjust the damage in the future, which I guess is maybe a 60-40 chance that they actually do that, the passives are still just as strong. So moral of the story is that Shazam now becomes a completely 100% must-have ally for AoE damage. Don't use it on single target. It is completely meta-breaking. And even if they do adjust it, like I said, in the future, the passives are still great. So, take care, guys. We'll see you in the next video.